Shalom. Hello. Welcome back to Sister for Sister Story Time with your sister ChayaFyah, the historian. Currently, we are reading The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. If you would like to get the book for yourself, the link is in the description box. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. The current chapter we are reading is on Bacon, Shakespeare, and the Rosicrucians. The present consideration of the Bacon-Shakespeare Rosicrucian controversy is undertaken not for the vain purpose of digging up dead men's bones, but rather in the hope that a critical analysis will aid in the rediscovery of that knowledge lost to the world since the oracles were silenced. It was W.F.C. Wixton who created the Rosicrucian mask. This constitutes one of the most significant statements relating to the Bacon-Shakespeare controversy. It is quite evident that William Shakespeare could not unaided have produced the immortal writings bearing his name. He did not possess the necessary literary culture for the town of Stratford where he was reared, containing no school capable of imparting the higher forms of learning reflected in the writings ascribed to him. His parents were illiterate, and in his early life he evinced a total disregard for study. There are in existence but 6 known examples of Shakespeare's handwriting. All are signatures, and 3 of them are in his will. The scrawling, uncertain method of their execution stamps, it is obvious either that he copied a signature prepared for him or that his hand was guided while he wrote. No autographed manuscripts of the Shakespearean plays or sonnets have been discovered, nor is there a tradition concerning them other than the fantastic and impossible statement appearing in the foreword of the great Folio. A well stocked library would be an essential part of the equipment of an author whose literary productions demonstrate him to be familiar with the literature of all ages, yet there is no record that Shakespeare ever possessed a library, nor does he make any mention of his skill. Commenting on the known illiteracy of Shakespeare's daughter Judith, who at 7 he made acknowledged Donnelly to be unbelievable that William Shakespeare, if he wrote plays bearing his name, would have permitted his own daughter to reach womanhood and marry without being able to read one line of the writings that made her father wealthy and locally famous. The query of Italian, Spanish, and Danish to say nothing of class Latin and Greek. For, in spite of the rare discrimination with which Latin is used by the author of the Shakespearean plays, then the Stratford actor understood small Latin and less Greek. Is it not also more than strange that no record exists of William Shakespeare's having is supposed to have written, or in others produced by the company of which he was a member? True, he may have owned a small interest in the Globe Theater or Black Friars, but apparently the height of his thespian achievements was the Ghost in Hamlet. In spite of his admitted avarice, Shakespeare seemingly made no effort during his lifetime to control or secure remuneration from the plays bearing his name, many of which were first published anonymously. As far as can be ascertained, none of his heirs were involved in any manner whatsoever in the printing of the first folio after his death, nor did they benefit financially therefrom. Had he been their author, Shakespeare's manuscripts and unpublished plays would certainly have constituted his most valued possessions. Yet his will, while making special disposition of his second best bed and his broad silver gilt bowl, neither mentions nor intimates that he possessed any literary productions whatsoever. While the folios and quartos usually are signed William Shakespeare, all the known autographs of the Stratford actor read William Shakespeare. Does this change in spelling contain any significance heretofore generally overlooked? Furthermore, if the publishers of the first Shakespearean folio revered their fellow actor as much as their claim, as if in ironical allusion to a hoax which they were perpetrating, place an evident caricature of him on the title page. Certain absurdities also in Shakespeare's private life are irreconcilable. While supposedly at the zenith of his literary career, he was actually engaged in buying malt, presumably for a brewing business. Also picture the immortal Shakespeare, the reputed author of The Merchant of Venice, as a moneylender. Yet among those against whom Shakespeare brought action to collect petty sums fellow townsman, one Philip Rogers, whom he sued for an unpaid loan of 2 shillings, about 48 cents. In short, there is nothing known in the life of Shakespeare that would justify a very excellent Puritan. The philosophic ideals promulgated throughout the Shakespearean plays distinctly demonstrate their author to have been thoroughly familiar with certain doctrines and tenets peculiar to Rosicrucianism. In fact, the Rosicrucians established history and presents Stamp the creator as one of the illuminous of ages. Most of those seeking a solution to the Shakespeare controversy have been intellectuals. Notwithstanding their scholarly attainments, they have overlooked the important part played by transcendentalism in the philosophic achievements of the ages. The mysteries of super explicable who not him to estimate the extent of their ramifications and could have written the Tempest, Macbeth, Hamlet, or the tragedy of Cymbeline. Who but one deeply versed in Paracelsian lore could have conceived a Night's Dream? Father of modern science, remodeler of modern law, Bible, patron of modern democracy, and one of the founders of modern freedom, Sir Francis Bacon, was a man of many aims and purposes. He may have intimated the Rosicrucian, if not actually the illustrious father seeking to initiate of the Rosicrucian order, and it is his activities in connection with this secret body that are of prime importance to students of symbolism, piece showing light and shaded A's from Shakespeare's King Richard II, quarto of 1597. The ornamental headpiece shown above is the signature. The light and the dark A's appear in several volumes published by emissaries of the Rosicrucians. If the above figure be compared with that from the Aliciati, Aliciati and Emblemata on the following pages, the cryptic use of the two A's will be further demonstrated. The title page of Burton's Anatomy of Melancholy. Bokonian experts declare Burton's Anatomy of Melancholy to be in reality Francis Bacon's scrapbook in which he gathered strange and rare bits of knowledge during many years of life. This title page has long been supposed to contain a cryptic message. The key to this cipher is the main in the lower right hand corner of the sign. According to Mrs. Elizabeth Wells Gallup, the celestial globe at which the maniac is pointing is the cryptic symbol of Sir Francis Bacon. The planet sign to appear clouds opposite the march figure 4, 5, 6, and 7 by configurations which produce the forms of mania depicted. The seated man with his head resting upon his hand is declared to become an enthusiast to represent Sir Francis Bacon. The volumes have written to establish Sir Francis Bacon as the real author of the plays and sonnets popularly ascribed to William Shakespeare. An impartial consideration of these documents cannot convince the open-minded of the verisimilitude of the poem. In fact, those enthusiasts here who identify Sir Francis Bacon long since have won their case had they emphasized its most important angle, namely that Sir Francis Bacon, the Rosicrucian initiate, yet be discovered that he was the actual founder. A sentimental if it can be proved that by raveling out the riddle there can be discovered information of practical value to mankind, then the best minds of the Bacon Shakespeare controversy at its most able aspects of science, religion, and ethics. He who solves its mystery may heed to the supposedly lost wisdom of antiquity. It was in recognition of the translator's manuscript of what is now known as the King James Bible for the presumption of revising them. The documents remained in his hands for nearly a year, but no information he had concerning what occurred in that time. Regarding this work, William T. Smedley writes, it will eventually be proved that the whole section of the King James Bible contains a cryptic Bokonian headpiece. Did Bacon cryptographically conceal in the authorized Bible that which he dared not literally reveal in the text? The Sir Francis Bacon unquestionably possessed the range of general and philosophical knowledge necessary to write the Shakespearean plays and sonnets, for it is usually conceded that he was a composer, lawyer, and linguist. His chaplain, Dr. William Raleigh, and Ben Jonson both attest to his philosophic and poetic accomplishments. The former pays Bacon this remarkable tribute. I God upon any man in these modern times, it was upon he had not his knowledge from books, but from some grounds and notions from within himself. Sir Francis Bacon, being not only an able barrister but also a polished courtier, also possessed that intimate knowledge of parliamentary law and the etiquette of the royal court revealed in the Shakespearean plays, which could scarcely have been acquired by a man in the humble station of the Stratford actor. Lord Verulam furthermore visited many of the foreign countries forming the background for those plays and was therefore in a position to create the authentic local atmosphere contained therein. But there is no record of William Shakespeare's ever having traveled outside of England. The magnificent library amassed by Sir Francis Bacon contained the very volumes necessary to supply the quotations and anecdotes incorporated into the Shakespearean plays. Many of the plays, in fact, were taken from plots in earlier writings of which there was no English translation at that time. Because of his scholastic acquirements, Lord Verulam could have read the original books. It is most unlikely that William Shakespeare could have done so. Abundant cryptographic proof exists that Bacon was concerned in the production of the Shakespearean plays. Sir Francis Bacon's cipher number was 33. In the first part of King Henry IV, the word Francis appears 33 times upon one page. To attain this end, obviously awkward sentences were required, as Anon Francis, no Francis, but tomorrow Francis, or Francis on Thursday, or indeed Francis when thou wilt, but Francis. Throughout the Shakespearean folios and quartos occur scores of acrostic signatures. The simplest form of the acrostic is that whereby a name, in these instances Bacon's, was hidden in the first few letters of lines. In The Tempest, Act 1, Scene 2, appears a striking example of the Bokonian acrostic. Begun to tell me what I am, but stop telling me to a brutalist inquisition, concluding, stay, not yet. The first letters of the first and second lines, together with the first three letters of the third line, form the word bacon. Similar acrostics appear frequently in Shakespearean plays. Okay, sorry about that. So the politically is in harmony with the recognized viewpoints of Sir Francis Bacon. Bacon. These are really educational analogy exists in Bacon's writings and the Shakespearean plays, but there are also certain historical and philosophical inaccurate quotations from Aristotle. Evidently realizing that futurity would in his will bequeath his soul to God above by the oblations of his Savior, his body to be buried obscurely, his name and memory to men's charitable speeches, to foreign nations, to succeeding ages, and to his own countrymen after some time had elapsed. That portion appearing in italics, Bacon deleted from his will, apparently fearing that he had said too much. That Sir Bacon's subterfuge was known to a limited few during his. Accordingly, stray hints found in many 17th century volumes. On page 33, Bacon's cipher number of the 1609 edition of Robert Cowdrey's Treasury or Storehouse of Similes appears the following significant allusion. Like as men would laugh at a poor part of some honorable personage upon a stage, when the play were at an end, he should keep them as his own and brag up and down in them. A Bokonian signature from Aliciati, Emblemata. The curious volume from which this figure is taken was published in Paris in 1618. The attention of the Baconian student is immediately attracted by the form of the hog in the foreground. Bacon often used this animal as a play upon his own name, especially because the name Bacon was derived from the word beech, and the nut of this tree was used to fatten hogs. The two pillars in the background have considerable Masonic interest. The two A's nearly in the center of the picture, one light and one shaded, are alone almost conclusive Baconian influence. The most convincing, however, is the fact that 17 is the numerical equivalent of the letters of the farm of Bacon's name, F. Bacco, and there are 17 letters in the three words appearing in the illustration. Repeated references to the word hog and the presence of cryptographic statements on page 33 of various contemporary writings demonstrate that the keys to Bacon's ciphers were his own name, words playing upon it, or its merlin. Notable examples are the famous statement of Mistress Quickly in The Merry Wives of Windsor. Hang hog is Latin, I warrant you. The title pages of the Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia and Edmund Spenser's Fairy Queen, and the emblems appearing in the works of Aliciati, Cymbeline, yeah, appearing in the fifth Rosicrucian signature as its numerical equivalent, 287, indicates. Again, on the title pages of the first edition of Sir Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, Father Time is depicted bringing a female figure out of the darkness of a cave. Around the device is a Latin inscription. In time, the devices appearing in volumes published, especially during the first half of the 17th century, were designed, arranged, and in some cases mutilated according to a definite plan. It is evident also that the mispaginations in the Shakespearean folios and other volumes are keys to Baconian ciphers for reeditions, often from new type and by different printers, contain the same mistakes. For example, The first and second folios of Shakespeare are printed from entirely different type and by different printers 9 years apart. But in both editions, page 153 of the comedies is numbered 150, numbered 250, and 251, respectively. Also, in the 1640 edition of Bacon's The Advancement and Proficience of Learning, pages 353 and 354 are numbered 351 and 352, respectively. And in the 1641 edition of Du Divine Weeks, pages 346 to 350 inclusive are entirely missing, while page 450 is numbered 442. The frequency with which pages ending in numbers 50, 51, 52, 53, and 54 are involved will he noted. Bacon, Verulam, Viscount St. Albans, from Bacon's Advancement of Learning. Lord Bacon was born in 1561. History records his death in 1626. Exists, however, indicate the probability that his funeral was a mock funeral and that leaving King lived for many years under a name Germany. There, Philly society, some of whose he had consecrated, seems to be minded impartial investigators that Lord Bacon was the legitimate son of Queen Leicester. The requirements of Lord Durham's bilateral cipher are fully met in scores of volumes printed between 1590 and 1650, and in some at other times. Unearthed by his memory of deceased author W. Shakespeare, the use of two fonts of type for both capital, the difference marked in the capital, T's, N's, and A's. The cipher has been deleted from subsequent editions. The presence of hidden material in the text is often indicated by needless involvement of words. On the 16th unnumbered page of the 16th one edition of Dubarta's Divine Weeks is a boar surmounting a pyramidal text. The text is meaningless jargon, evidently inserted for cryptographic reasons and marked Baser the Hawk. The year following publication of first folio of Shakespeare's plays in 1623, there was printed in Lüneburg a remarkable volume of cryptography, avowedly by Gustavus Silenus. It is considered extremely probable that this volume constitutes the cryptographic key to the great Shakespearean folk. Peculiar symbolical head and tail pieces also mark the presence of cryptograms. While such ornaments are found in many early printed books, certain emblems are peculiar to volumes containing Bokonian Rosicrucian ciphers. The This is a line and word count involving punctuation, and especially long and short exclamation points and the straight and slanting interrogation point. Its exact nature will be made public. No reasonable doubt remains that the Masonic order is the direct outgrowth of the secret societies of the Middle Ages, nor can be denied that Freemasonry is permeated by the symbolism and mysticism of the worlds. Sir Francis Bacon knew the true secret of Masonic origin, and there is reason in cipher and cryptogram. Bacon is not to be regarded solely as a man, but rather as the focal point between an invisible institution and a world which was never able to be promulgated. This secret society, having rediscovered the lost wisdom of the ages and fearing that the knowledge might be lost again, perpetuated it in two ways. One, by an organization, Freemasonry, to the initiates of which it revealed its wisdom in the form of symbols. Two, by embodying its arcana in the literature of the day by means of cunningly contrived ciphers and enigmas. a cryptic headpiece from Raleigh's History of the World. Many documents influenced by Baconian philosophy or in, intended to conceal Baconian or Rosicrucian cryptograms use certain conventional designs at the beginning and end of chapters, which revealed to the initiated the presence of concealed information. The above ornamental has long been accepted as of the presence of Baconian influence and is to be found only in a certain number of rare volumes, all of which contain Baconian cryptograms. These cipher messages were placed in the books either by Bacon himself or by contemporaneous and subsequent authors belonging to the same secret society which Bacon served with his remarkable knowledge of ciphers and enigmas. Variants of this headpiece adorned the great Shakespearean Folio, 1623, Bacon's Novel Organum, 1620, the St. James Bible, 1611, Spenser's Faerie Queene, 1611, and Sir Walter Raleigh's History of the World, 1614. The Droeshout portrait of Shakespeare from Shakespeare's Great Folio of 1623. There are no authentic portraits of Shakespeare in existence. The dissimilarities, the Droeshout, Chandos, Jansen, Hunt, Ashbourne, Soest, and Dunford portraits prove conclusively that the artists were unaware of Shakespeare's actual features. An examination of the Droeshout portrait discloses several peculiarities. Bokonian enthusiasts are convinced that the face is only a caricature, possibly Droeshout. Shakespeare, with portraits and engravings of Francis Bacon, demonstrates the identity of the structure of the two faces, the difference in expression being caused by lines of shading, not also the peculiar line running from the ear down to the chin. Does this line subtly signify that the face itself a mask ending at the ear? Notice also that the head is not connected with the body, but is resting on the collar. Most strange of all is the coat. One half is on backwards. In drawing the jacket, the artist has made the left arm correctly, but the right arm has the back of the shoulder to the front. Frank Woodward has noted that there are 157 letters on the title page. This is a Rosicrucian signature of first importance. The date 1623 plus the two letters on from the word London gives the cryptic signature of Francis Bacon by a simple numerical cipher. By merely exchanging the 26 letters of the alphabet for numbers, 1 became A, 6 becomes F, 2 becomes B, and 3 becomes C, giving AFBC. To this is added the on from London, resulting in AFBCON, which rearranged forms F Bacon. Evidence points to the existence of a group of wise and illustrious fraters who assumed the responsibility of publishing and preserving for future generations the choicest of the secret books of the ancients, together with certain other documents which they themselves had prepared. That future members of their fraternity might not only identify these volumes, but also immediately note the significant passages, words, chapters, or sections therein. They created a symbolic alphabet of hieroglyphic designs. By means of a certain key and order, the discerning few were thus enabled to find that wisdom by the tremendous import of the Bokonian mystery is daily becoming more apparent. Sir Francis Bacon was a link in that great chain of minds which has perpetuated the secret doctrine of antiquity from its beginning. This secret doctrine is concealed in his cryptic writings. The search for this divine wisdom is the only legitimate motive for the effort to decode him. Much of value if it would turn its attention to certain volumes published during the 16th and 17th centuries, which bear the stamp and signet of that secret society whose members first established modern Freemasonry, but themselves remained as an intangible group controlling and directing the activities of the outer body. The unknown history and lost rituals of Freemasonry may be rediscovered in the symbolism and cryptograms of the Middle Ages. Freemasonry is the bright and glorious son of a mysterious and hidden father. It cannot trace its parentage because that origin is obscured by the veil of the superphysical and the mystical. The Great Folio of 1623 is a veritable treasure house of Masonic lore and symbolism, and the time is at hand when the great work should be accorded the consideration which is its due. Though Christianity shattered the material organization of the pagan mysteries, it could not destroy the knowledge of supernatural power which the pagans possessed. Therefore, it is known that the mysteries of Greece and Egypt were secretly perpetuated through the early centuries of the church, and later, by being clothed in the symbolism of Christianity, were accepted as elements of that faith. Sir Francis Bacon was one of those who had been entrusted with the perpetuation and dissemination of the arcana of the superphysical, originally in the possession of the pagan hierophants, and to attain that end either formulated the fraternity of RC or was admitted into an organization already existing under that name and became one of its principal representatives. For some reason not apparent to the uninitiated, there has been a continued and consistent effort to prevent the unraveling of the Bokonian scheme. Whatever the power may be which continually blocks the efforts of investigators, it is as unremitting now as it was immediately following Bacon's death, and those attempting to solve the enigma still feel the weight of its resentment. A misunderstanding world has ever persecuted those who understood the secret workings of nature, seeking in every conceivable manner to exterminate the custodians of this divine wisdom. Sir Francis Bacon's political prestige was finally undermined, and Sir Walter Raleigh met a shameful fate because their transcendental knowledge was considered dangerous. The forging of Shakespeare's handwriting, the foisting of fraudulent portraits and death masks upon a gullible public, the fabrication of spurious biographies, the mutilation of books and documents, the destruction of or rendering illegible of tablets and inscriptions containing cryptographic messages have all compounded the difficulties attendant upon the solution of the Bacon Shakespeare Rosicrucian riddle. The Ireland forgeries deceived experts. First edition of Sir Walter Raleigh's History of the World. What was the mysterious knowledge which Sir Walter Raleigh possessed, and which was declared to be detrimental to the British government? Why was he executed when the charges against him could not be proved? Was he a member of those feared and hated secret societies which nearly overthrew political and religious Europe during the 16th and 17th centuries? Was Sir Walter Raleigh an important factor in the Bacon Shakespeare Rosicrucian Masonic enigma? By those seeking the keys to this great controversy, he seems to have been almost entirely overlooked. His contemporaries are unanimous in their praise of his remarkable intellect, and he has long been considered of Britain's most brilliant sons. Sir Walter Raleigh, soldier, courtier, statesman, writer, poet, philosopher, and explorer, was a scintillating figure at the court of Queen Elizabeth. Upon this same man, King James, after the death of Elizabeth, heaped every indignity within his power. The cowardly James, who shuddered at the mention of weapons and cried like a child when he was crossed, was insanely jealous of the brilliant courtier. Raleigh's enemies, playing upon the king's weakness, did not cease their relentless persecution until Raleigh had been hanged and his decapitated, quartered, and disemboweled body lay at their feet. The title page reproduced above was used by Raleigh's political foes as a powerful weapon against him. They convinced James I that the face of the central figure upholding the globe was a caricature of his own, and the enraged king ordered every copy of the engraving destroyed. But a few copies escaped the royal wrath. Consequently, the plate is extremely rare. The engraving is a masked Rosicrucian and Masonic symbols, and the figures on the columns in all probability conceal a cryptogram. More significant still is the fact that the page facing this plate is a headpiece identical with that used in the 1623 folio of Shakespeare and also in Bacon's Novum Organum. According to material available, the Supreme Council of the Fraternity of RC was composed of a certain number of individuals who had died what is known as the philosophic death. When the time came for an initiate to enter upon his labors for the order, he conveniently died under somewhat mysterious circumstances. In reality, he changed his name and place of residence, and a box of rocks or a body secured for the purpose was buried in his stead. It is believed that this happened in the case of Sir Francis Bacon, who, like all servants of the mysteries, renounced all personal credit and permitted others to be considered as the authors of the documents which he wrote or inspired. The cryptic writings of Francis Bacon constitute one of the most powerful, tangible elements in the mysteries of transcendentalism and symbolic philosophy. Apparently, many years must yet pass before an uncomprehending world will appreciate the transcending genius of that mysterious man who wrote the Novum Organum, who sailed his little ship far out into the unexplored sea of learning through the pillars of Hercules, and whose ideals for a new civilization are magnificently expressed in the utopian dream of the new Atlantis. Was Sir Francis Bacon a second Prometheus? Did his great love for the people of the world and his pity for ignorance cause him to bring the divine fire from heaven concealed within the contents of a printed page? In all probability, the keys to the Baconian riddle will be found in classical mythology. He who understands the secret of the seven-rayed god will comprehend that employed by Bacon to accomplish his monumental labor. Aliases were assumed by him in accordance with the attributes and order of the members of the planetary system. One of the least known but most important keys to the Baconian enigma is the third of les images of tableau des plats, peinture des deux philostrates, sophists, Greeks et las statues de Callistrate by Blaise de Vigenère. The title page of this volume, which, as the name of the author, when properly deciphered, indicates, was written by or under the direction of Bacon or his secret society, is one mass of important Masonic or Rosicrucian symbols. On page 486 appears a plate entitled Hercules Pharaoh, showing a gigantic figure shaking a spear, the ground before him strewn with curious emblems. In his curious work, Das Bild des Speerschuttels, Die Losung des Shakespeare Ratzels, Alfred Fronde attempts to explain the Bokonian symbolism in the Philistines. Bacon here reveals as the philosophical Hercules, whom time will establish as the true spear shaker or Shakespeare. All right, that's the end of that chapter. Stay tuned for the next chapter, the cryptogram as a factor in symbolic philosophy. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Peace.